So I, 32F, understand that this may make me come across as a heartless idiot, but it is what it is. Not too long ago my sil died in a car accident. My brother died years ago, so her death has left my nephew, 12M, orphaned. I've always maintained a child-free life for a number of reasons, mainly because I'm ace, so no interest in having a family, and autistic. I've never been good around children, and due to my autism looking after myself has been hassle enough, so I know that I'd make an awful parent guardian, especially when it comes to the emotional side of things. Ever since the accident, I have been looking after my nephew, and without exaggeration, it has been absolutely draining on me. My entire life and my routine have been derailed because of this, which I know isn't my nephew's fault, but it's been putting me under an amount of stress that I can't handle. The problem is that aside from myself there is no one in our family who is able to take care of him. My parents are elderly and in their late 70s, so they can't look after him. Custody hasn't been fully sorted out yet, and if I were to decline, my nephew would be placed into the foster system. I know it isn't great or the best outcome for him, but I'm dedicating to giving him over to them. They'll be able to find people who can better care for him and who want to care for him, as bad as that sounds. I haven't told him my decision yet, but I have made my parents and friends aware, and, well, their reaction has been worse than I expected. Obviously, I didn't think they would be okay with it, but my parents are threatening to end communication with me, and a lot of my friends are telling me that if I go through with this, they'll distance themselves from me. Obviously, I'm aware that my nephew wants to stay with family and that he could suffer from going into the foster system, but I can't take care of him in the way he needs. I can't afford to take on the cost of getting a bigger apartment with a room for him, let alone bring him up or take care of him. I think it's best that others do it, they'll do a better job than I can. But, still, people are calling me heartless and are making out that I'm some monster for this. So am I the idiot? First things first. Have you actually talked to your parents about helping you financially? You say that you're currently living in an apartment and you can't afford a bedroom for him. That's a pretty big deal. I think you need to figure out if your parents could help pay for a bigger place before you make your decision. 12-year-olds are pretty self-sufficient. I think dumping him in foster care should be a last resort. Focus on getting support first. Finances are the least of her worries, really. She's struggling to look after the kid, so no matter how self-sufficient you think 12-year-olds are, I used quotes because they are certainly not self-sufficient. What planet are you living on? OP knows what she can handle and knows she can't handle this. Nor should she have to. She genuinely thinks someone else would be a better caregiver, and that's a big thing to admit, so stop shaming her and don't use words like dumping. Even if they were self-sufficient, which they aren't, his parents have died. I know that when I was an adult and was going through the worst experience of my life, I was not self-sufficient. I couldn't get out of bed for months, didn't eat, and ended up losing about 70 pounds in 2 months because I was crying that much. And in my situation, nobody died and it was resolved 6 months later. I can't imagine what this poor child is going through now. This kid needs to be somewhere with someone who can support him. If OP can't do that, then it is their responsibility to find someone who will. If that means giving him to the state, well, that sucks, but it might be best. My nephew is going through a lot of the same things you've mentioned, even with his therapist involved with things. I'm pretty sure he hasn't eaten anything today, even though I've given him food as well. I'm just not capable of giving him the care he needs. Not the idiot, but there are far better solutions than handing him to social services. If your family thinks you're so heartless, they should be stepping up to help you care for this 12-year-old. Ask for help. Talk to social services and see if there are any supports that can assist you in parenting this poor orphaned kid. Ask your family and friends to step in and help take some of the load. This isn't ideal, but it's also temporary. He is 12 and could be on his own in 6 years. I know it isn't what you planned, but life doesn't always go that way. If OP is in the US, nephew may qualify for SS survivor benefits. It sounds like he was their only child as well, meaning his benefit would be higher as he's the only one drawing. Update. Hello everyone. It's been a pretty stressful day, and I haven't been able to read through the mountain of comments people have left, but I am trying. After reading what people have said about foster care, I am looking into other options. I still don't think that I'm good enough to be responsible for him, but if worst comes to worst, I'll have to do that. I'd much rather take on this stress than hand him over to a system that is likely to take advantage of him and abuse him. That said, I have spoken to his best friend's parents today about the possibility of taking him in, And they did seem to be willing to do it as far as I could tell. We're just going to talk about more of the particulars about it before deciding on anything. I want to thank everyone who has left productive comments and have given advice to me, as well as those kind enough to offer themselves as potential carers for him. Given what everyone has said about this, I have changed my mind about foster care, but I still do think that I won't be able to care for him in the way he deserves, but I am willing to do it if no other option presents itself. My husband has a habit of blaming my behavior reaction on my period. For example, when we argue, he'd say, "I won't argue anymore since you tend to act crazy when you're on your period," or even say, "I know you didn't mean to say that but couldn't help it since it's that time of month for you." It's so irritating and it prevents me from being allowed to express myself. It happened again last night at the dinner table. We had an argument about him forgetting to fill my car with gas after he used it, and when I expressed my frustration, he said, "We will not talk about this now since you appear to be on your period." I said that I was not on my period and that this was just me feeling frustrated with him. He insisted he won't talk about this then and insisted he won't hear what I had to say since I was on my period, since I was being irrational during the argument. I snapped and had enough. So I got up, stood in front of him while he was still eating and pulled down my pants and showed him my underwear. He made a grossed out face and shouted, "Hell, that's nasty, I'm eating my damn dinner." We had a full-blown argument and he said I acted horribly and ruined his appetite by pulling that nasty move. He told me to grow up and stop being spiteful over nothing. He keeps saying I grossed him out during dinner and made him go to bed hungry. Am I the idiot? Did I overreact? You're not the idiot, and your husband is a misogynist. He's weaponizing stupid trope to belittle your emotions and avoid treating you like a person, and it sounds like you're at breaking point. At best, he has no respect for you, and at worst, I'd honestly say his behavior is crossing into emotional abuse territory. Not the idiot. If your husband grosses out your body, maybe it's time you reevaluate your relationship. Not the idiot. Your husband doesn't love you. He is likely using you as an ATM. If I dropped my pants in front of my husband, his appetite would transfer to a different organ. Earlier this year I, 26F, got an inheritance from a family member, and it was a godsend. I finally got to move out and get my own place after living paycheck to paycheck. My dream place. I could never get to a place like this without Providence or cutting my way through the corporate ladder with a machete. But the most important part is the pool. I love it, I'd swim every day if the weather lets me. It has helped me get in great shape. The problem comes from the neighbors. Mark and Kaylee have 3 kids. Brad, 16M, Chad, 14M, and Lee, 11F. They started out friendly enough, especially Kaylee, who's dripping with housewife, yoga, and PTA energy. She told me about a week after I moved in over a plate of cookies that the prior owners of the house were an older couple who let her kids use the pool whenever they wanted because their kids were out of the house and they didn't like quiet. I, on the other hand, love quiet. I am introverted, I love my privacy. First thing I did when I moved in was put up curtains. I told her I was uncomfortable with that arrangement, but perhaps they could come over occasionally if they don't abuse the privilege. Cue the children abusing the privilege all summer. Every time I was out swimming, it would not be long before Chad and Brad would run over and jump in, followed by Lee with her floaties. And being teenage boys, they'd always want to roughhouse or gape at me or my friends when we'd get out of the pool and make gross comments. This would be tolerable if it happened once a week. They even brought friends a couple of times, and more than a couple of times I've had to tell them they need to leave cause I was with adults doing adult things, drinking, etc. So now I'm putting up a fence for 2 reasons. 1. I'm getting a dog. 2. I want my privacy. Kaylee ran out of their house when she saw me and a couple of friends hammering in the fence and digging holes for privacy hedges. I made sure everything was within regulation and right on the property line. She said if I put up a fence it'd be harder for her kids to come over and play. I said yes. She asked if I was planning on putting a gate between our yards. I said nope. Finally, she asked, a little choked up, if I was depriving her kids of our pool. Our pool? I told her how in the beginning I had said they could use the pool as long as they did not abuse the privilege, and they did. I said now they can only come over if invited. She told me they were going to be crushed and saw me as a big sister. I told her no teenage boy looks at their sister the way those boys looked at me and my friends. She took huge offense to that, and it might have been gross to hear, but so were the comments on my bikini from her boys. It's too much. I'm not their babysitter and I have every right to my privacy, but some people have been saying the fence is too much and I'm going to hurt the kids' feelings. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Not at all. In fact, however high you were planning on building this fence, make it a foot higher. I'd install cameras to in case those kids try to come over without permission. Not the idiot. In fact, you're a saint for allowing them to come over as much as you have already. We have a pool and a fence and enjoy our privacy. There's no way I would let kids come swim in our pool unless I invited them. It's also a huge liability for you if something were to happen to one of those kids in your pool. Why does everyone have to consider the kids' feelings and blatantly ignore the homeowner's feelings? You have a right to decide what is best for you and your own property. The fact they are children is meaningless. Put up your fence. Get a dog. Enjoy your privacy. Not the idiot.